What's up guys, this is FlamingVictini and I'm back for the first blood of SPL if I'm not mistaken. This is Dice versus Calloflochie for UU, and Dice gets off to a good start. He leads off with his Cobalion against the Mamoswine, forcing it out from Calloflochie's end, and gets up his rocks as well as taunting the Yuxi. Now the Yuxi can probably take a U-turn right here, but Dice if Dice goes for the Volt Switch, then the Yuxi will get off the slower U-turn and get the momentum. Or Dice could not have Volt Switch on the Cobalion. He could be like close combat Iron Head, and then he'll just get off damage on the Yuxi. And I'm expecting the Yuxi to have Stealth Rocks, Psychic or Psyshock, Thunder Wave, and U-turn, but that might be just an RU set, not an UU set. But there's the Iron Head right there, as there's a flinch, which is pretty bad for Calloflochie because that's an extra 26% on this Yuxi if he chooses to stay in with it. And if he doesn't, he could choose to switch out to his Suicune, but it's really tough because this Cobalion can taunt the Suicune, and all you're doing is hoping for Scald Burns, as he does go for Suicune. So I don't know if Dice would run Iron Head Volt Switch, but if he does have Volt Switch, that'll be good for him. Otherwise, he can go straight to, I was thinking the Shaman actually, but he goes to his Frostlass and gets burned by the Scald. Well, Calloflochie has no hazard removal, and he doesn't want to have Frostlass around after the Absol Mega Evolves, because then he'll have Magic Bounce, and Dice won't be able to get up his spikes against that. He also kind of preserves his Shaman, I guess, a little bit more, but so the Frostlass goes down for the spikes, and I'm guessing the Shaman will come out right here. That's also looking like Rain Mega Pert, and yeah, Chandelure, I'm thinking Specs, maybe Scarf Hydreigon, and he just goes straight for the Seed Flare as the Hydreigon comes in. He misses, which basically just means no damage on it, which could be useful if he wants to kill it with Chandelure later on in the game. But Dice doesn't really have a comfortable Hydreigon switch in. It has coverage to hit every single one of his mons. It can Fire Blast, Earth Power, Fire Blast, Focus Blast, the Cobalion, and just go for the Dragon move or the Dark move for everything else. So curious to see what Dice would want to go into here, but his Cobalion is looking very, very good in this game, because he can also like taunt the Venomoth, taunt the Yuxi, kill the Absol, especially before it Mega Evolves, kill the Mamoswine, and the Suicune is taking all those hazards damage, plus Dice has some pretty decent answers to it, so in Shaman that is. But he actually chooses to take the Draco Meteor and go for another Seed Flare with his Shaman, as it's Life Orb Shaman, so he won't be able to live like a low roll Draco Meteor the next turn. As that's good because he can go into his Cobalion right here, knowing that the Hydreigon is most likely a choice lock, so his Cobalion is pretty safe here. It's interesting to see that he does not have the leftovers, so he probably has Shukaberry or Choppleberry. I don't know if they run Choppleberry, but I know Shukaberry Cobalion is a set that's used. It lets it handle Mamoswine a little bit better, and which is pretty good for him. So Hydreigon right here is not really in a good spot. If he goes for another Draco, it's not going to do much at all. And this Cobalion is really looking problematic for Calloflochie, because if he goes to Yuxi as he does right here, then he has an option to U-turn on the taunt, and there's the defense drop, so he could also just Psychic right here. So I don't know if Dice would be comfortable going for the taunt right here, because this Cobalion is so good, but it's also pretty nice to stop the Yuxi from getting up rocks. So Dice has some options here, but I think he's in the driver's seat right now. If he can play carefully with his Cobalion, I think the Cobalion itself is a huge threat, so he might be able to just win the game, depending if he's able to play it right. But Calloflochie, he has opportunities to win. He just needs to get around Dice's like fast breaking and hazards, and just get some more momentum, and he might be able to put in some work, especially if he can Mega off that Absol versus something that would be good for him. But it's really looking tough. He has to be really careful, and now that the Hydreigon is low, the Chandelure is looking like a bigger threat. The Venomoth, if Calloflochie can get this Cobalion weak, then he could put in a lot of more work with like his Hydreigon, with his Absol, with his Venomoth, so with his Mamoswine. So it's just really an advantage to get rid of this Cobalion, and I think Dice realizing that would switch out to his Hydreigon as he does, and there's the U-turn. So that's the problem with going to the Hydreigon, is because he might choose to not go for the Psychic move and instead go for the U-turn. So that works out for Calloflochie, and right here, I'm not sure what he would want to go to. He could go to Mamoswine to threaten the Ice Shard, but I'm not sure if it'll kill. It might have to be like Adamant Life Orb to kill Hydreigon at this range. And he could choose to go into his Suicune and rest. He could, I don't know if he could live a Draco Meteor at that range. I'm assuming that this is Choice Scarf Hydreigon. He could also choose to go to his own Hydreigon and go for a Speed tie, but I don't know if he'd feel comfortable doing that. He doesn't really have many options, assuming this is Scarf Hydreigon. If it's not Scarf Hydreigon, then I guess he has a little few more options by going to his own Hydreigon, which I'm expecting to be Scarf, but Calloflochie's taking his time here, maybe calking versus the Suicune. The Suicune will be a little under 75% health if it comes in here, so I'm not expecting a Scarf Draco to kill at that range, and it can rest up if Dice chooses to go for the Draco, and the Suicune is actually looking a little bit more threatening because that Shaman is low. So Dice, I'm assuming the Chandelure is going to be Energy Ball Trick, so he has to play that a little bit carefully, but I could see the Suicune being a problem actually, so he may choose to not go to the Suicune and try to preserve it. Because that Shaman is already down to like 25%, if I remember, yeah, exactly, 25%. So if Calloflochie can remove the Shaman, then his Suicune has more opportunity to put in a lot of damage with Calm Minding and all that stuff, but Calloflochie is taking his time here. I don't know, I guess I'm just gonna wait to see what he wants to go for. I don't know what else. The Venomoth, I think I've covered, is a threat if you can weaken the Cobalion or remove it. Mamoswine. Let's look at Swampert. Swampert's actually, it's that Suicune. If he can remove the Suicune, or weaken it enough, and then get off the Rain Dance with the Swampert, it kind of can do a lot of damage, as long as he doesn't take too much damage so that it's in range of Absol Sucker Punch. The Mega Perk can put in a ton of work as well against Calloflochie. So I think this game is a little bit more on the momentum, who can put the ball in their court, and Calloflochie goes to the Mamoswine. So considering the time he took there, I'm assuming that he's calced this and is confident that the Ice Shard will kill the Hydreigon, or has a good enough chance to kill the Hydreigon. So right here, Dice could make could go to his Cobalion as, oh my god, it's actually Life Orb Hydreigon rather than Scarf, so that might actually be Scarf Chandelure, and the Mamoswine most likely went for the Earthquake, predicting the Cobalion, and it just goes down to the Flash Cannon, which is looking really bad for Calloflochie. This is looking pretty good for Dice, but now that he knows that it's not Choice Scarf, he can go into his own Hydreigon, outspeed this, and kill it with the Draco Meteor. He could go for the U-turn or a coverage move, but that's a little risky. If he has Focus Blast, he might choose to go for that because of the Cobalion, but Dice may choose to just not risk. I don't know, this Hydreigon is a very big threat, but I don't think he'd be willing to throw away Shaman quite yet. It's kind of choosing what do you think is the least valuable on Dice's team, because everything has potential against his team, but he actually chooses to go straight to the Cobalion and takes 46% from that Draco Meteor, so the next one won't be able to kill. But now this Cobalion is significantly weaker, but it's still a major threat, because it still trucks everything on Calloflochie's team, and those hazards are really putting in a ton of work. He can just close combat, and I think Ironhead will kill the Uxie after that, so he doesn't have to worry about taunt predictions or anything, and otherwise he forces in the Suicune and makes it take hazards. He can taunt it and stuff, so this is really looking to be in Dice's favor right now. I'm not sure how Calloflochie would choose to play around it. He could choose to sack his Uxie to get a free switch into Suicune, or back into Hydreigon. That could be an option. Or he could attempt to go straight to Suicune, but I think Calloflochie realizes that he needs to play his Hydreigon and his Suicune very, very carefully to win this game, so he does choose to just sack the Uxie, as it's just going to go down to another CC or Ironhead right there. So now that the Uxie is gone, I'm guessing the Hydreigon will come back in, or the Suicune will come back in. Or not back in, but it'll come in. If he goes Hydreigon, there's a little bit of, well, he can, because of the drop, he can just click Draco Meteor, so Hydreigon guarantees a kill, but like, I don't know, it's a little shaky, because if he chooses to go to his Hydreigon and click Dracometer, Dice can easily just sack his Shaman, then bring back in the Cobalion, and once the drops are there and his defense drops are removed, Speed F drop, then he can bring back in the Cobalion and click CC one more time, just basically grab another kill. And at that point, I think Calloflochie is just sacking stuff. But if Loki can get the momentum in his favor somehow and just somehow survive through these hazards, he still has some hope to win this game. I think if he can like somehow set up his Venomoth, like it's really tough because the Venomoth is taking Stealth Rock spikes, and there's Taunt, there's Hydreigon, there's Chandelure, Scarf Chandelure, but I don't know. I don't know if Calloflochie would want to go for the Dracometer here. I don't know if Dice would want to sack his Shaman, because the Shaman is kind of like insurance against the Suicune. And you don't want to randomly lose to the Suicune just because you threw away your Shaman prematurely, so he's definitely taking his time here. And considering what he wants to let go away, also maybe considering whether he'll have an opportunity to do enough damage with Pert to keep it around maybe. But Pert is good to tank an attack from Absol. It can probably tank a Venomoth attack depending on its spread, but I'm guessing Calloflochie just clicked Dracometer, I don't know. But if he did, it would be pretty troublesome if Dice sacks something, brings this thing in, and gets another kill. But then it's kind of trading kills, but then the hazards are in Dice's favor and they're on Calloflochie's side. So every time that Hydreigon comes in, it only has 2 more switch-ins, and if after that, if it switches out, it's gone. And the Suicune is getting heavily worn down, losing 25% of his health. The Absol really can't do much unless it finds an opportunity to Mega and come in and do some damage barely, but it's going to be tough, and the Venomoth will also be hard pressed to find an opportunity unless it can come in on something that it outspeeds, Sleep Powder it, and then start Quiver Dancing. So Dice taking his time here. He says, I think he's trying to play some sort of mind games, but he chooses that he's willing to let his Hydreigon go away, perhaps realizing if it's not Taunt Hydreigon, then it might be then it might actually be set up fodder for the Suicune, so he might also be trying to be careful in that sense. But the Cobalion can come back in here. I'm not sure how much damage Pert could do to the Suicune, but Calloflochie can't afford to let a Suicune get like close combated and then taunted as he goes for a recovery move, because then he's just taking so much damage, and that Pert can set up on a -2 Draco Meteor and just clean up the game basically. So as long as Sucker Punch plus Draco Meteor won't kill, I'm not too familiar with the calcs, but or actually does Scarf Hydreigon outspeed Pert? Pert's like around 240. Hydreigon, what is it? Like 317, 324. Okay. So quick mental math. I don't know. 480. I think Hydreigon actually still outspeeds Swampert in the rain, unless it's like a Jolly Pert or something. So maybe the Pert is just good to tank an attack or two. At this point, I mean, Calloflochie still has some threats, and the score is actually even, but the ball seems to be in Dice's court. As, I don't know, Calloflochie has to choose what he wants to let go here, or if he wants the Suicune to take a close combat, and he chooses that he needs every mon he has right now, and he can't afford to just sack something, as Dice actually goes for the Iron Head, not the close combat. Perhaps expecting a Venomoth sack and not wanting to, or perhaps expecting the Hydreigon attack and not wanting to get drops, or perhaps expecting the Venomoth and not wanting to CC it and then Iron Head on a Suicune pivot. But, I don't know, I think close combat was fine there. I mean, he avoids getting the drops, but damaging the Suicune a little bit more than the 70% would be really good, because even if you taunt this thing and then switch out to Shaman on a Scald or something, it's still going to be recovering health from leftovers, but you are still dealing the hazard damage. I'm just concerned about like how he wants to play around with the Swampert kind of thing, but I'm trying to think if there are any other ways Calloflochie can win, as he just goes to his Shaman because he can tank a Scald right here, unless he burns, and he does burn, so that might have actually been a high roll too, but Scald showing why it's so good in this game. Burns the Shaman and takes it down. Otherwise, Dice would have been free to fire off a Seed Flare and basically grab another kill right there with the Shaman. So Calloflochie has the advantage in Mons now, so if this becomes a sack fest, it'll be in it'll be in Calloflochie's favor, and also now the Suicune is looking like a much bigger threat, as the Cobalion actually comes back in. So now I'm thinking that Calloflochie is getting a little bit more traction in this game, because now Dice just sacked his Shaman and is bringing back in a Cobalion versus a Suicune. If he goes, I mean, this could be really tricky for Dice. I think he's just going for trying to win with Pert right here, but he really has to be careful about the Hydreigon and Absol Sucker Punching, as also somehow stalling rain turns. But I don't know, would Dice taunt right here? Because if the Suicune gets up a Calm Mind or rests or something, well, if he rests, then the Cobalion can taunt on the Sleep Talks, but then it's still wasting a turn. It only has like a few turns to abuse the fact that it's asleep, and I don't know how much CC does, but I'm not expecting him to do too much, maybe like 20 to 25%. Not expecting much more than that, so Calloflochie is taking his time, perhaps calking versus Scald versus dropped Cobalion or something, as he just goes straight for the Scald. And yeah, the close combat actually does 28%, with the leftovers not that much actually, so around 20%. So, and this is looking like Calloflochie just brought it back, unless that Swampert can pull some endgame magic. Even if he goes Chandelure here and clicks Energy Ball, he doesn't force in the Hydreigon, because the Absol can come in and Sucker Punch, and I think Sucker Punch damage plus Dracometer damage might be able to just kill the Swampert. So really, I think the only way left for Dice to win this game is to win with Swampert, and I need to see what speed Perts hits. Let me go on and alt. I don't want to log on to this. Okay, so data. Oh, let me do it here. Data Swampert. Swampert is base 60, so it'll hit. If it's Jolly, it'll actually only hit around 240, so less than 240. Should be 230. Actually 241 maybe, but there's the Energy Ball, and it doesn't even kill the Suicune, so this Chandelures are also taking damage, and if it's Choice Lock, this also means that the Venomoth can come in. So I think this game just turned into Calloflochie's flavor. Oh, it's actually not Scarf Chandelure. I'm not sure what it would be then. If it's not Scarf, he's not Scarf Hydreigon, not Scarf Chandelure, but he actually chooses to Shadow Ball rather than going for the Fire Blast, as the Absol goes for the Swords Dance. Not really sure what's going on there. That might just be my lack of UU knowledge, but that might just be my lack of. Wait, he did Energy Ball, right? No, he Shadow Ball. Okay, my bad. For some reason, I read Energy Ball on the Suicune, so he did actually go for the Shadow Ball, so that explains. It is Scarf Chandelure. I just misread, I don't know why. So that explains the SD right there. And Absol can just go for the knockoff right here. No need to risk a Sucker Punch on the Sand Rain Dance, because he actually has Superpower, which does a bit more damage. And this Absol just wins. Dice, it's not going to help him at all, because the Rain's going to run out, and then the Absol will outspeed the Swampert. So this is Calloflochie's game. He has won this, and if I'm not mistaken, this is the first blood, so I don't remember what team Dice and Calloflochie are on, but Calloflochie takes the first game, at least first UU game if I remember correctly. But yeah, so Calloflochie wins this one, and that's it. I think Dice had a good chance, but like that Scald Burn really put the momentum out of his favor. Otherwise this might have been a different game, but that's it, and I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys later.